to be still up in the air to some degree. Glenn Ignazio is here with more, retired U.S. Air Force Special Operations Commander. And you wonder if we're going to make any kind of progress or just keep having the same conversations with little tweaks, but nothing really changes, I guess, until it does. What should we expect this weekend?
Yeah, I thought we were in better shape last week, but I don't see much real progress with the U.S. pushing forward. I mean, I thought we really had some good progress there, but now we're seeing the European Union and Zelensky really get together about the points that really Zelensky is standing behind. And that's, again, the territorial concessions, the security, even talking about these votes and how they would be supported. So I feel like he is building that background, which is countering some of the things that Trump's pressuring him on.
Now, in terms of Trump and whether it's worth it for the U.S. to go, here's what he said about that this week.
And they want us to attend. And we'll be attending the meeting on Saturday in Europe if we think there's a good chance. And we don't want to waste a lot of time.
Don't want to waste a lot of time. Would it be a waste of time to go to something like this? What were you referring to there with Zelensky and the Europeans?
Yeah, I think it'd be good to at least have a U.S. representative there to see exactly what is coming out. So we saw another, well, basically a 20-point that came from Zelensky out. What I believe, or at least the sensing, is that the European Union really hasn't been formidable in these negotiations in the past as we come up on 4 years. So what we see is Zelensky really traveling through France, UK, and others is that he's trying to get, at least in my impression and many others, a background or at least support from them to counter some of Trump's push that is beneficial for Russia. That is, again, the land concessions, security guarantees if he puts a referendum forward to have the Ukrainians vote about giving up land. So I feel like he's trying to get that to sort of put some of the pressure back on Trump that he is receiving from the president.
Yeah, trying to appeal to Trump in some ways as well, I believe. I was reading like a Politico article about this DMZ that would be a free or like a free economic zone, I think is how they described it. So that would be kind of something that the Ukrainians probably figured Trump would like. Okay, that's good. We could do some business, American companies. Would that kind of a strategy work or appeal to the president, you think, to get him more involved and engaged?
Well, I think it would, because that's one of the proposals, and it's also some of the conflict. I remember we were talking about this months ago about, hey, what about a DMZ or a buffer zone? Yeah. Again, it talks about a large area, not just the area that Russia is occupying. It also talks about first steps that Ukraine would pull out of that territory before Russia, which is one of the things that they're arguing about. But at the same time, if you look at this, say, an economic zone, who is actually going to manage that particular area if it's an economic zone? Russia, Ukraine? Really a big question there. But is it plausible? I think a DMZ is more plausible. But again, a lot of concessions that have to be given by Ukraine because, again, occupied by Russia right now.
We're in the Donbass. But what, the other idea is Russia giving anything, any concessions from Russia right now? You think they just have too much leverage? I mean, let's not forget, I mean, I know we talked about it, but let's not forget this is the invading country. This is the country that's clearly in the wrong, if you look at it. And it just does seem like we keep having conversations where Russia's getting more than Ukraine. Is that just a reality people have to deal with? I mean, how do you see it?
You know, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but, you know, my support for Ukraine, but Russia, again, is gaining more territory. There's a couple of cities that they're sort of disagreeing about, but Russia has gained additional land. And again, there is no military capability that Ukraine has to push Russia out. So over all these times, sanctions, all these different threats, oil, energy, hasn't pulled Russia out of that area. So I don't think Russia's going to give up on it. Getting the whole Donbass area, that's a pretty big reach. But getting those territories they occupy, I hate to say it, I don't see why they would pull out of it when they gain so much right now by being in there.
We'll see how things go this weekend in Paris. Thank you, Glenn. Glenn Ignazio with us. Live event coming up from the White House.